apologize that I have to be a little bit quiet today, as folks are still sleeping. It's Christmas Eve and everybody's trying to relax. I wanted to do a little end of the year video to talk about some of the books that I read this year that I really enjoyed. You can check out my blog if you want to see movies that I watched this year that I enjoyed. But in the meantime, I figured I'd talk about some books. I'm going to get something out of the way really fast, a little bit of a cheat. I haven't finished this book. I've got about 15 pages left. This is Man, I suppose is the name, by E.C. Tubb. This is part of the Doomerest of Terra series. Highly recommended series. This is book 9, I think. I don't think it's nice enough to tell me inside. Yeah, it's not. I think this is the 9th book in the series, and I think there's like 32 when the series is finished. Great fun, fast reads. The only reason this is taking me a while to read is that I've been using it on my commute. I've been reading it on my commutes, and I haven't been commuting very often because I'm working from home right now. So, anyhow, the E.C. Tubb series is great. If you are into games like Traveller, this would be some fantastic reading for Traveller. Several of the books that I've read so far have really put me in the mood to play those kind of classic sci-fi RPGs like that. So yeah, Doomerest of Terra, great series, very much worth checking out. Your best bet these days would be to get them digitally. That's how I've been reading most of them. I only have 2 in print. 6. I have an omnibus of the first 4. But they never put out any more omnibuses. Whatever. Second up, also a slightly cheat also, The Dark Crystal. I did read it this year. Why I say it's slightly a cheat is I'm not 100% sure I actually liked it. I'm interested in it. I love The Dark Crystal. Visually, it's gorgeous. I felt like it kind of maybe, and this may have been me, which is why I can't condemn the book, but I think it may have been its presentation lacked something. I feel like maybe there was a little bit missing for me to understand how to play, in if that makes sense. But I very much want to bring this to the table at some point and experiment with it and see if I can wrap my head around what I was not picking up in the reading. So, The Dark Crystal. Read it this year. Man, I just absolutely love The Dark Crystal. I really liked the Netflix prequel series. I love the world of Thra. There's a comic book series, graphic novel series, I don't know, you would call them trades, about the origins of the universe. I can't remember what it's called now, but really good comic. Anyway, Dark Crystal. So let's see. If you watch any other videos on the channel, you know I love Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I love reading the mad bastards that work on Dungeon Crawl Classics. I love reading their stuff. Well, the Gongfarmer's Almanac is fan-made material for Dungeon Crawl Classics, and this year I read the 2020. It's, as far as I know, at least at the time that I picked it up, only available in hardcover. But you can buy this from Lulu basically at cost plus shipping. So this was, I think, a $25 hardcover, and it's 700 something pages. I don't know if it says in here how many actual pages. Yeah, because they do a weird thing with each volume. Anyway, it's 700 something pages, and it just has tons of super enjoyable, weird fan-made stuff. The DIY vibe for Dungeon Crawl Classics is very strong, and this picks up on it. I love the Gongfarmer's Almanacs. You can also get them free as PDFs, so it's great stuff. You should definitely check it out if you're into DCC. Talking comics earlier, I read 5 Ghosts. This has a very Hellboy kind of vibe to it. It has that sort of retro, weird fiction, strange, mystical stuff. I really enjoyed this. I do think it went on for a couple more volumes, and I am going to have to try to track those down at some point, because I thought this was quite good. Very inspirational for, like, you know, well, I won't talk about that, but I'll talk about it later on when I get to it, but for another RPG that I got this year, but also like a Pulp Cthulhu or something like that. So Five Ghosts is really cool. I would definitely recommend checking it out. You know, I read a lot of Image for their science fiction stuff, but they do other stuff that's really cool too. And the nice thing with Image is a lot of their volume 1s are $10. Not all of them, but a lot of them are $10. So you can find out at a slightly lower price if you want to pick it up or not, if you want to read it or not. It's not like a Marvel one where the first volume would probably be $25 in paperback. Anyway, Marvel. They're sort of the Wizards of the Coast of comics. So I also read Matrons of Mystery. This was very cool. Excuse me, I haven't played any Powered by the Apocalypse games, so I'm really curious. This is like an ultra light Powered by the Apocalypse game, which may be the version of it that clicks better with me, because I sort of feel about that game system the way I feel about Fate, where it seems system light until you start reading it, and then all of a sudden it feels incredibly system heavy. And it might be because I just haven't been able to play them yet and figure out how they play. And it might be like Deadlands and then Savage Worlds, where once you are used to how it works, it's really intuitive, but it's just the getting your head around how it works. Maybe that's what the case is with Powered by the Apocalypse. But anyway, this stripped down version of it in Matrons of Mystery seems super usable. I've heard lots of really good things about it. It's very a fun thing. Had the world not been as sort of nuts as it's been in 2022, I definitely had plans to bring this to the table with some friends, with my wife and some of her friends, and my friends. But it didn't happen, so we'll see what 2023 brings, because it looks great. Let's see. You know, I've talked before, my favorite RPG is probably Call of Cthulhu, and so I got the Catcott Collection, which I really enjoyed. This was XP Lovecat, YouTube person who is on YouTube. She did a review of this a little while ago, and it really interested me. It's also super cheap on Miskatonic Repository. You can get it on Drive-Thru RPG. I think it was $7 maybe. And this is what I actually would love to see more of. And I'd love to see like a collection of them from Chaosium. And that is one-on-one scenarios, one game master, one player. And so I look forward to bringing this in. I could see this being I could definitely see it being a one-shot, just a one-off, done, no problem. But I could also see this being the background adventure for a character coming into a campaign. Run this for them. They go through what happens in this, and then maybe it's a year or two later, and they're joining the rest of the party in a campaign. I could see that being the case. Anyway, the Catcott Collection. Check that out. Speaking of drive-through, excuse me, a little bit of tea here. Holiday flavor, trying that out. Not as strong as the smell, I would have thought. Age of Shadows, based on Open Quest by Newport. This is by Christian Richards. This is, somebody had told me when I had asked online about potential systems to use to run Middle-earth, run a game in Middle-earth, because I am not going to invest in the insane collector prices of MERP, and I don't know how I feel about the One Ring. There are mechanical aspects of the One Ring that I don't click with, especially, just mechanical aspects I don't click with. I love the art, I love the presentation and all of that, but I don't know if it's for me. But I was thinking about it anyway, and somebody suggested Age of Shadows. I picked it up, I gave it a read. This is very cool. This very much feels like an extrapolation. I think more than it feels like. I think it is an extrapolation of basic role-playing. It has very, very similar rules to the original basic role-playing with a few additional things put in. And basic role-playing is, I mean, it's the system I started with. It's the system I ran pretty exclusively for probably a decade. I do love it. It's very good. And reading this kind of made me re-fall in love with basic role-playing, and I think I may use this in some other capacity. Up next, not going to talk too long about it, I read Beanstalk and Adventure for 2300 AD. I've given serious thought to using Alien, the new Alien RPG, to run 2300 AD. I think that the system and setting mix well with the setting of 2300 AD, and I thought Beanstalk was a really cool adventure. This would be a good starting adventure, I think. So I may do that at some point coming up. I'd love to get a group playing that. I was mentioning I was going to talk about something in relationship to Five Ghosts, and that is Gentlemen vs. Demons. This is kind of a ultra streamlined version of Call of Cthulhu, sort of, but aimed more at a Victorian Edwardian Sherlock Holmes. You can imagine characters played by Vincent Price, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee would all be like really good fits for this game. Maybe slightly supernatural investigators like a Karnacki, that kind of thing. But I liked this a lot, and I'm giving thought to using this for, if I run horror on the Orient Express, I may use Gentlemen vs. Demons. I think it would be very cool and might counteract some of the meat grinder aspect of that campaign, so that there might be a better through line of characters who start and end the campaign. Let's see. 1000-Year-Old Vampire. Lots of people have talked about this on other YouTube videos, so you can find those, I'm sure. This is a solo sort of journaling or whatever kind of journaling RPG. I wasn't sure how this would all play out. I'm not really into vampires. They're not my bag. But I think it was on Free RPG Day, I ended up picking up a copy of this at my local-ish, friendly local game store. Very friendly, not as local, but still, they're pretty great. And I had an absolute blast playing this. I absolutely loved the story I came up with. And it was fun, looking back over the story as it played out. Like, if I was going to write a novel about a vampire, I might play this game and have all the background I needed. I mean, it was really cool. It was very, very interesting, really neat way of playing, of doing solo and of coming up with these things. Great prompts, just really excellent. The product, it's also, I mean, it's visually, it's gorgeous. It's a little pricey, but it's pricey because you're getting something like, this is an artifact, this is really nice. So, highly recommended 1000-Year-Old Vampire. Check it out for sure. And I guess last I'll talk about, you all know, I've talked about it multiple times, D&D, not my bag. But I love Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I have been acquiring some old D&D stuff to reskin and tweak to be Dungeon Crawl Classic stuff. And Treasure Hunt was one that came up. And you can get a lot of this stuff, not necessarily a lot of stuff I'm showing today, but a lot of these sort of things on Drive-Thru RPG, pretty cheap. Forget the collector market. I mean, if you're a collector, that's your business. But if you just want to use the stuff, go to Drive-Thru RPG, get one of the reprints. They're pretty cheap. Treasure Hunt is basically a funnel before the funnel in DCC. This is a zero-level adventure in AD&D. You play peasants who crash on this island and have to deal with the fact that they're not heroes, they're not warriors, they're not any of these things. They just have to try to survive on this island. And I think this would directly transfer over to Dungeon Crawl Classics, where you have a bunch of zero-level characters crash on this island. They die off as they go along and try to figure out how to survive. And at the end of it, they come out as adventurers and figure things out from there. They might end up with a boat. So I think if you were starting a nautical campaign, I think that'd be a great option. And then finally, the Goodman Games Original Adventures Reincarnated version of the Expedition to the Barrier Peak. I read this. I had a ton of fun reading this. It's absolutely bonkers. I think that the excuse me, first thing in the morning. I think that the Goodman Games folks have just really knocked it out of the park. As always, great art, tons of fun. They've taken the original module and they have just rewritten it in a way that I feel much more connected with, that I feel like I could have fun running it. Now, I would modify the crap out of it, as I always do. There's things that I would change, things that I would drop, but it's very, very cool. I think they did just a really fine job on this. The new maps are great. It's just all a lot more, I find, user-friendly. I like the way Goodman Games does their stuff. I find their material to be very user-friendly. And it's a ton. I mean, they expanded a fairly short, the original, I may even overshoot it, but the original adventure is only, what is it, like 30 pages? Something like that, yeah. And they've expanded it to like well over 100, and very cool. Anyway, if this kind of wacky hell's-a-poppin' adventure is your thing, I think that this would be a lot of fun, and I could see running this like for months with Dungeon Crawl Classics. I mean, going in, coming out, fighting off various things, the lead-ups, the stuff that what the thing at Barrier Peaks is causing. You could have earlier scenarios. There's actually a couple of Dungeon Crawl Classic scenarios and a couple of Mutant Crawl Classic scenarios I've thought about using as earlier scenarios to set up the idea of this, including setting up the idea of the weird tech and stuff like that. So I just had so much fun reading this. I'm hoping to read some more of the original Adventures Reincarnated, because I always thought there were some cool ideas in some of those old modules, but the writing, the demands of the time, the style of game at the time, which is definitely not a style I ever connected with. I feel like these updates, these modern, they really keep the soul of the original, but make them a lot more, we've learned a lot in 40 years about presentation, writing, descriptions, usefulness at the table, etc. And that gets put into these books. I think it's great. So that was 2022, a bunch of the books that I read and enjoyed. Now, I read a lot more books than that. I didn't necessarily always enjoy all of the other books that I read. Because I am not commuting anymore, I've actually been reading very few traditional books, very few novels or nonfiction books. Those usually I need time and focus on, and that's a focus I only get when I'm on a train or a bus. So instead I've been reading things that don't demand as much focus. And I also read a lot of comics, and there's a reason why I only talked about 5 Ghosts. So that's it for me, I guess, for now. I'll see you in 2023 for sure. Take care, everybody.